Live in, then rent. This is one that we've done multiple times with just the nature of my job, having to move around, whereas that you live in it for a while, and then you move out and rent it. And it's the same thing, you can leverage with house hacking. If you own a fourplex, you live in one unit, and you can leave the next year, and then now you rent it out, rent that unit out. In the same way with this, you can buy foreclosures. I've lived in foreclosures that we bought. Then once we move and relocate from the area, then guess what? Then now it's returned into a traditional rental property. And so that's one of the strategies that you can leverage, because a lot of people, they move up housing, a lot of people, when you buy your first starter home, that is not necessarily the house that you're gonna live in the next 15, 20 years from now. You're not gonna probably still be in that house. So, having that strategy, when you're buying, looking at, hey, okay, what are the rental rates in this area before I buy? Is it a great school district? How's crime? Things like that a buyer is looking for in those areas, because you can attract really great renters when you get ready to rent the property out. So if you can look at that and the house is like, okay, well, if we buy a 2,500 square foot house, what's the max that we can rent? If we only can rent it over here for $1,500, but if we buy a 2,500 square foot house on the other side of town, we may have to pay a little bit more, but the rent's like $1,000 more because it's has a perfect school district. So things like that, when you're buying, to kind of think 5 years, 10 years down the road, what's your true long-term goal, and align what you're doing today, your actions, the purchases that you're doing today, where you can go in and think down the road, like, hey, I can convert this into a rental property, or I can convert it into a duplex, or I can Airbnb it, or whatever it is. Because when you say rental, you can do long-term or short-term rentals. So you have a lot of those options that you can leverage. And the great part is you're using some of these residential loan products that don't require a whole lot of money out of pocket up front, compared to a traditional investment property where you're gonna have to put 20 to 25% down up front.